The weather is clear, the conversation is light, and everything between the two of you feels perfectly stable. You've reached the meadow. If someone looked at your relationship on paper, they'd say you made it. But this friction-free peace is highly deceptive. In fact, this exact spot is where the vast majority of connections simply go to die. Every relationship starts on an easy, well-worn trail. It's the initial stage of light conversation and mutual discovery. The path is clear, the effort is low, and because there is no real emotional risk yet, the walk is incredibly comfortable. The danger of this comfort is that you start to mistake the absence of conflict for the actual presence of intimacy. You assume that because the trail is easy, the relationship itself must be thriving. Eventually, that clear trail splits. You hit your first real disagreements, literal forks in the road that require an actual, difficult resolution rather than just polite nodding. Most people handle these early splits by leaning on basic social politeness. They smooth things over, back down, or quickly change the subject to avoid the friction of a real clash. The problem is that your goal right now shouldn't be to keep the peace. Your goal needs to be developing the competency to navigate disagreement. If you dodge these early tensions just to keep the trail easy, you aren't actually climbing together. You are walking in circles, actively cementing a highly superficial bond. That avoidance drops you directly into the meadow. You don't fight, you get along, and value each other. It feels like a massive achievement, but psychologists call this the meadow trap. It is a psychological plateau, a flat expanse where forward progress comes to a complete halt. The trap works because you look up from that clearing and see the path ahead. The boulders look bigger, the terrain is rougher, and the effort required to navigate that steep headwall of vulnerability looks entirely too demanding. So you lay down your knapsacks, you look at your partner, and mutually decide that being very good is enough, because the idea of continuing the ascent feels overwhelming. By choosing the safety of the plateau over the risk of the peak, you achieve a level of stability, but you completely sacrifice depth. What paralyzes couples here is a fear of relational climate change. They dread that moving to higher altitudes and exposing their flaws will disrupt the comfortable ecosystem they've built. So they stay put. They sit back, enjoy the view of the progress they've already made, and allow their connection to slowly stagnate. They settle into a fake peace. Unspoken grievances and tiny resentments get quietly buried under the guise that they both still value the partnership. But the absence of a negative, like fighting, does not equal the presence of a positive, like growth. It is merely a symptom of profound risk aversion. To move from a good relationship to an exceptional one, you have to face the head wall. This is the steep, punishing part of the climb, where your choices multiply and the emotional risks exponentially increase. Tackling it requires a mandatory mindset shift. You have to stop saying, "I can't," and start explicitly acknowledging, "I have a choice to make, even though this is incredibly hard." Scaling this head wall means implementing 6 specific characteristics. It starts with the foundation, being fully yourself and actively embracing vulnerability. Next, maintain unflinching honesty, trusting disclosures won't be used against you. Finally, deal with conflict productively, committing to each other's continued growth. If you stop climbing because you fear these heavy boulders, you cut off the only possible path to a robust, meaningful bond. This stage brings immediate, real-world friction. It forces you to ask difficult, uncomfortable questions, like figuring out exactly how much help you should offer your partner, or whether they'll welcome your input or feel insulted by it. Navigating this terrain is undeniably exhausting, but it is also deeply exhilarating to finally communicate without filters. The ultimate reward for this exhaustion is leaving the fake peace of the meadow behind, forging a connection that is actively resilient. And that resilience is strictly necessary, because life eventually brings sudden, violent storms, and those storms will completely destroy a fragile, untested relationship that only knows how to survive in the sunshine. If you are tired of the plateau, it is time to face your own head wall. Subscribe to Plot Triage for more deep dives into the mechanics of human connection. Because the active, continuous choice to keep climbing through conflict is the singular mechanic that separates a pleasant partnership from a life-changing bond.